Alexander Graham Bell, he didn't build many boats.
It's a monster. For me, it was like finding a dinosaur.
Owning boats, to me, is only part of the equation.
Bev McMullen called me and explained this boat she found snowshoeing through the bush and asked me if I'd be involved in getting it or whatever, going through the documentation of finding it. And I said, hey, great, I'd love to. So I'll come up with my truck and trailer and hoist and we'll show the whole thing, how we do it. Actually go out in the bush with gantries and chain falls and block everything up and cut a few trees and back a trailer under a gray boat.
While I was crossing through the snow, my snowshoe hit on something. I did a face plant, like right into the snowbank. And when I turned around, I kind of saw like this little wooden thing sticking up. And I thought, that looks familiar. So I turned around and did one of these to the snow. And I got really excited because I started digging it out and I thought, oh my God, it's a wooden boat. And as I dug down deeper, I could see that it was an unusual wooden boat because it was blue. It was painted blue, for a funny looking blue, not something I had seen up in Muskoka. I thought, well, maybe I can look for a name. So I dug down and there was just like an outline of shadow with one piece of hardware. It was the O, that was the Tolka. And I thought, oh, I think I'm onto something. And then I kind of played around all day with my snowshoes and I thought, it's a monster. For me, it was like finding a dinosaur.
They swore up and down the family that it was a manette. And we knew it. It just wasn't a manette. It was too many different pieces. Everything about it was different. They didn't build boats like that in Muskoka. They didn't have styles like that in Muskoka. It was about almost a year later that we actually found out that the Lash family had two 36-foot boats. And I guess the Muskoka rumor mill and the guy that got the boat and used it for years, the caretaker, he told everybody it was a manette. Well, they did own a 36-foot manette, which was very confusing, but then we found out they owned a 36-foot Tolka. Where most boats fall down is they just don't have the history. You've got one picture or two pictures, you got a story, but almost never can you definitively prove any of that. We were hugely lucky with Tolka. Harold Shield, that did the Ditchburn book, helped us dig some information with the project. And we got him kind of interested in it. So he made a trip to the Register of Shipping and he was able to dig and find this vessel license paperwork for when the boat was brought from Nova Scotia to Ontario. And it's unbelievable what they did to get it from one province to another. We're not even crossing the border to another country. And so we have all this paperwork that shows the complete detailed line drawings of the boat to calculate tonnage. We could have built a boat from these drawings. But fortunately, we had the real boat with hull, showed plank placement. And it's more historic to do the original boat. But all this information came together, which normally isn't with most boats.
I had an occasion to meet Peter Breen a year and a half, 2 years before we took on this project, and I really enjoyed working with him. And he had brought up the pictures to me, but at the time I wasn't really that interested, but I liked Peter, and I knew that he could do the job and he could do it right. The fact that we had the video, the early video of the Lash family, the drawings, that we could verify the authenticity of the entire project made me feel very comfortable, and I was very correct. Peter's been wonderful to work with.
Well, I'd met Lee at different boat shows through the years, and I knew that he was a history buff. He only wanted a boat if it was a correct boat. He didn't want a boat with a new engine in it. So I mentioned this boat to him. I said, it's a really rare find, and I said, to me, not only is it a famous Muskoka boat, but it's a famous North American boat, because in Muskoka, we all relate to Ditchburns and Minettes. And in the States, they're very well known. and all the big collectors, they're sought after. But the general populace doesn't know what a Ditchburn Minette is. But this boat, because it was built in Alexander Graham Bell's Laboratories, that's a thing that everybody, both sides, there is no border. Everybody understands it. Everybody realizes how important a piece of history it is. And then when Lee saw the video with the boat running and all the information that we had, because it took us at least 2 years to get all that together before we could show it to him and say, here's what we got.
I'm really partial to boats that were built before World War II. And I think they have a part in history because they span so many generations of people. I grew up with a wooden boat. My family had one. My children grew up with wooden boats, and my grandchildren now are driving wooden boats and learning, as I did, the importance and the beauty in those boats. I think it's very important. And these boats are going to be around a lot longer than any of us on this earth, and I think it's very important that we try to preserve them.
From the family, we found 3 different 8mm movies from the 30s. The last one was color. It showed the exact color of the leather, the exact color of the stain, which was also verified by underneath screws and boards where you get the fresh varnish and chrome that was still there. There was still areas where you could see the color. There was no guessing with Tolka because you knew the color of the leather from 3 different directions. We reused every single square inch of wood of the hull that we could use, that we could salvage. What we did is we took 2 truckloads out of all the pieces. And at the time, a lot of the pieces, some you know where they go. It's very easy to figure out. Other stuff, we had no idea what it was. So it's not till 3 years later when you're actually putting this stuff back in the hull that you start to eliminate pieces. We cleaned up and replaned and used what we could. As you get near the end of the project, and that's the thing that we didn't know at the time, there's no picture anywhere of the dash at Tolka. Nothing. None of the videos, none of the still pictures, nothing shows the dash. We were really worried about what to do with that stage. We were getting close to that. And all of a sudden in the wood pile, there's only 6 or 8 pieces of wood left. There's the 2 tops of the dash. Unmistakably, they have the crown of the doghouse in them. But we did not know what those pieces were until we'd eliminated the other 600 pieces to get to there. It's kind of like a forensic reconstruction. We've done lots of boats that had a little of this and a little of that, but I've never seen a boat that had as much in all the different areas as Tolka did.
Oh, how lovely. It's just gorgeous.
So did you ever go for a ride in this boat?
Did I? Oh, yes, lots of times.
Where did you sit?
Picnics. Well, that's where I like to sit. With
in the bow.
Is that the better spot to be?
Oh, that was the exciting place to be. Well, these were all covered up. They all had lids on. That was, we didn't want to be under lids.
Be up on this roof, and we'd go to regattas, and we'd watch from the regatta, and it was a wonderful place to be. But then my brother and I, we asked my father if we could modify the boat because it wasn't being used. And what we did is we cut the decking, and we made it sort of a boat that we could work with and play with. And we would water ski, and I think I told my brother the other day, I said that we had 5 water skiers on it. He said he thought we had even more. But it was a pretty amazing, fun time. I saw it when it was at Peter's, and because I felt I ruined this boat, and the fact that I see it back like this is just absolutely wonderful.
The first time we met, when he came to the shop and saw it totally done, he told me the whole story. It was quite interesting.
Does that bug you to know that someone took a chainsaw to a boat?
Like this?
No, because if it wasn't for these people that kept them going, and like what they didn't tell you, they also fixed it up and put some cotton in it and kept it from sinking. If it wasn't for these guys using them as work boats and keeping the whole thing going, the boat wouldn't be here to get fixed today.
Yep.
And that's what people don't understand. Like they go through a stage where, sure, they might have got used for other purposes, but that's the guy that kept the boat alive, or it wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for these guys going out and having fun and drinking beer in it, or pulling water skiers, or having their dreams and working, putting all that effort into keeping it going, there'd be no boat here today.
But I absolutely can't believe what you did and how you did it. A true boat building exercise and involvement.
My childhood comes back.
Doesn't it?
Oh,
Does that look familiar?
Oh, look at this.
Right down to the lights in the back of the seat.
I could be there with Gay again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, isn't that amazing? I could just be back there with my grandmother again.
Alexander Graham Bell, he didn't build many boats. He didn't build many boats that survived. He built some sailboats that are still sailing and very famous. He built some sailboats that sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and back. Casey Baldwin sailed them back and forth across the Atlantic several times. I mean, these guys were real pioneer playboys of the day or whatever.
It's truly amazing to be here. I mean, it's history again. And I guess that's the amazing thing about having grown up in my grandfather's shadow, is that this is just another situation where I'm confronted with his history, his accomplishments brought back to life, as in Tolka, as in Silver Dart, the White Wing, the AEA, the HD4 hydrofoils. This model was actually Casey's working model of what we think is either a very close approximation of the HD12 or HD13 that was built at the same time Tolka was built, in the same shop. Was built for Betty Carstairs to challenge the Harmsworth Trophy. World's record was sent with 2 Liberty V12s on air props on a 60-foot hydrofoil that broke the world speed record in 1919 of 71 miles per hour, which was pretty fast for those days. I think the only reason Casey ever would have built this boat was that he was asked by his cousin to do so. This kind of boat was not the kind of craft you would find in Eastern Canada where shops were. Then again, Casey knew this type of boat because of his earlier history in Muskoka.
I've never been married, I've never had a baby or children, and seeing Tolka in the birth there was kind of like the two of them combined. It was a real rush to see it from the very beginning, like seconds of finding it until years later. It's a beautiful masterpiece.
I have 28 boats, all told, and but by far I think Tolka's the most impressive boat that I have. A lot of beautiful boats in my collection, a lot of beautiful boats in the world, but with the provenance of this particular boat, it really is something special. The fact that it was manufactured in the Bell Laboratories, and because of the people here in the Muskoka area that owned it, the Lash family, for so many years, it's going to play probably the most prominent role in my boathouse.